Members, good morning. This is the appointed time. We have a quorum. So welcome to the meeting of the Bills Committee on Product Eco-Responsibility Amendment Bill 2023. This is the fifth meeting. We'll continue to scrutinize Part 5 to the bill, amendments relating to plastic products. So we'll start with the interpretation clause. CB, the blue bill, CB bracket 3103/2022, page C58, or the marked up copy, CB bracket 1278/2023 bracket 01, page 45 in the English version. I will invite the administration to walk us through the bill clause by clause. In the letter dated the 23rd of March 2023, the Assistant Legal Advisor raised some questions in this paper, CB bracket 1278/2023 bracket 02. The administration has given a reply, CB bracket 1289/2023 bracket 01. We will address these two papers when we come to that part in the scrutiny. We have a team from the administration. We are moving on to the crux of the bill relating to amendments to plastic products. Now, before we begin the clause-by-clause scrutiny of this part, I'd like to first invite the administration to tell us your thoughts and the possible CSAs after listening to members' views, so that when we come to the exact clauses, we don't need to go through them again. Perhaps you will incorporate members' suggestions in your proposed amendments. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to definitely move amendments. I believe at the end of the examination of the bill, there will be another meeting to discuss CSAs to be moved either by the administration or members. But let's start with the groundwork. We can have a discussion first before we move on to the exact clauses. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Now, we've listened to members' views in the previous meetings. The first point about a relaxation measure is in relation to plastic gloves. There are practical uses in the day-to-day living by the public, and it is not easy to find an alternative. The original proposal is to ban the sale and free distribution of plastic gloves. But having listened to members' views, we will continue to allow the sale of plastic gloves. We will only ban free distribution, so as to help meet daily needs. About other products, such as cake toppers, subject to any other views. If members believe we should not ban the sale and free distribution of cake toppers, then we will be taking this out from our list. So we will continue to listen to members' views as we go along. I think we discussed another point. There are things related to phase 2 of the implementation of your proposal. The key is whether you can find alternatives. Maybe I am talking about the nitty-gritty, say for the dental floss. So far, these so-called toothpicks are made of plastic, and there is no alternative. And even if there is, if you can't find alternatives in the market in general, you will not introduce the ban in phase 1. Is that right? That is true for a number of products. In our proposal, we find a need to impose control on them. Now, for other disposable plastic products, they will come into effect in the next phase, depending on the availability of alternatives. By then, we'll be meeting with members of the council and the relevant sectors. This notice, which allows the law to come into effect, forms another item of subsidiary legislation. So there will be another chance to discuss with members. Tablecloth is one example I can think of. Well, sometimes in less than a fine dining situation, there may be a need to use plastic tablecloth, the thin ones, for the purpose of customer service. I can find an alternative, newspapers, but there may be a hygiene problem as well. In fact, since the last meeting, we have been discussing with the administration on a number of occasions, and I find it commendable that they're heeding our views. So that is why I'm starting the discussion with these policy matters, so that we can listen to the latest stance and handle these matters in a pragmatic approach. So we'll start the clause-by-clause scrutiny now. Deputy Chair, Mr. Chen Xiuhong. Thank you, Chairman. I'm in no support of the Chairman's suggestion. Before we start the clause-by-clause scrutiny, we should consolidate the views expressed by members in previous meetings and seek the administration's latest position, so that when we come to those clauses in a moment, we don't need to dwell on the same point again. But having heard the administration's explanation, I do have a reminder to make. I believe members of this Bills Committee shares the same goal, that is, there should be zero plastic. But there are obstacles as to the actual implementation of the ban. So the general principle is that if time is ripe, if the sector is ready, and if an alternative is available, they can be banned. I heard the administration about the plastic gloves for food preparation, for diners. I think that this is acceptable. Without compromising the environment, we should allow the sale of plastic gloves. You can only ban the distribution so as to control them in number. What about proposed amendments by members or by the administration to delay the ban of certain plastic products from phase 1 to phase 2, or to take away some of the items from the list? I think you need to level with the public and avoid a misconception that after listening to the views of the Bills Committee, the administration is backpedaling. So about the delay of the ban or taking out some items altogether, you need to give a very clear account. For example, the alternatives are not available in the market, or that the alternatives are not readily available, or that they are very costly. So money is not the solution to every problem. We still see plastic bags in the landfill, is that right? So the concept is that plastic bags are allowed, only that free distribution is no longer allowed. You should explain this concept very clearly. Second point, as mentioned on the last occasion by, say, Mr. Peter Shiu or Mr. Yo Pak Lau, there is a question as to whether the sectors are ready. Once the legislation has been enacted, sufficient time should be given to the sectors to get them ready. You should talk to Mr. Peter Shiu to make sure that the sector is ready. So I hope the administration will consider our suggestions and rethink the proposal. Right, I think the administration has heard you loud and clear. Mr. Peter Shiu has also pressed the button. I think this is also on this related issue. We want to be pragmatic, so please make sure you give a clear account of the rationale. And as mentioned by Deputy Chair, you do have lists for phase 1 and phase 2, and if you want to exclude certain items or delay certain items, you need to level with the public so that there won't be a misunderstanding that we are supporting the continuous use of these plastic products. Because the reason is that these plastic products cannot be replaced by alternatives readily at this stage. And there is also hygiene concern, and the alternatives may not be readily available. When the administration proposes CSAs, I believe they will put the explanation in writing, just to put it on record. Thank you. So I think Mr. Peter Shiu is also concerned about the implementation timetable. Mr. Shiu.
Thank you, Chairman. On the time of implementation, the deputy or the undersecretary has given me a call. If the relevant stakeholders think that they can handle it, then we won't raise any objections. So may the administration talk to the trade directly. On the question about plastic gloves, well, we understand that it's important to be environmentally friendly, but then hygiene and sanitation are equally important. How do you clean the food waste without the plastic tablecloths? If you use the plastic ones, then people can just clean all the food waste up. If you do not use plastic and you use substitute materials, say the municipal solid waste charging scheme, currently they're proposing to use those green eco-friendly bags. Can we use the same materials for tablecloths? Well, the list we have concerns plastic products. So any table covers made of plastic will be regulated. How about the green bags that I talked about? It's also made of plastic, but we use the so-called regenerated plastic. Well, if you're using plastic to manufacture the plastic bags, why aren't you using the same material for table cover? Well, we have to ensure that the bags are water resistant or waterproof. So we are going to use the green bags in the future, and we are making those type of bags with plastics. Well, with that charging scheme, you're using recyclable plastic. Well, you're going to implement the scheme in phases, then why don't you adopt the same materials for table cover? Mr. Xu? For table covers or tablecloth, they're not going to regulate it at the moment, so we have to wait for available alternatives on the market to regulate this item. I think the administration will give a thought to it. Well, I don't want to keep us too long from the clause-by-clause examination. I'm just raising it because you were talking about it just now. I think we'll have to wait until there are readily available alternatives on the market for tablecloths? Well, in this Bills Committee, we focus on disposable plastic products. Are we going to completely eliminate all plastic products on the earth? I think that won't be possible at this stage. Let's move on to clause-by-clause examination. Well, Mr. Chen has pressed the button to speak. And Ms. Rebecca Chen. Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank the administration for its effort. You have incorporated our views and you have taken into consideration the actual circumstances. I have one point to make. I think after the scrutiny of the bill on publicity, we want to encourage people to reduce the use of plastic products. Say for disposable plastic gloves, now we're banning free distribution. But in terms of publicity, I think we can encourage people to buy fewer such gloves and use fewer such gloves. I think we need to incorporate this message in your publicity effort. Mr. Chen Xiuhong, a quick comment. I see that the Environmental Protection Department sent out an email a few days to invite members and the public to attend a workshop in relation to the regulation of plastic products. I think this move is commendable, but I think you should have done it earlier. You shouldn't just hold one workshop like this next week. You should not assume that we will pass the bill. Regardless of when the bill is passed, you have to do such work so that the public and the trades know what alternatives there are. We have to let the public know that there are alternatives on the market. So I want to commend the administration for its effort, but at the same time, I want to let them know that they should have done this earlier and they should do this kind of workshop more frequently. I also think that the administration should set up a gallery to provide information to the public in terms of how the public can change their behavior and what alternatives there are to plastic products. Based on the change of the relevant environmental policies and the resources available, I think the government should set up a gallery like this. Let's move on to clause-by-clause examination. I'll invite Mr. Chang from the EPD to continue to walk us through the marked-up copy. We stopped at page 45 of the marked-up copy in the last meeting. We are adding in some new definitions, including disposable, made of oxo-degradable plastic, made of plastic, plastic, and regulated plastic product. We will provide explanations on sections 3, capital letters A, B, and C. Under section 3A, we're providing meanings of plastic and made of plastic. Under our definition, as long as a product is made of polymer, regardless of whether there are additives, then we consider it as a plastic product. Apart from traditional plastic, we also include oxo-degradable plastic and the allegedly biodegradable plastics and laminated layers of paper cups are also considered as plastic. As long as the product is made of plastic, we consider it plastic product. There are exceptions under the ordinance if the polymer is a natural polymer that has not been chemically modified, such as paper and fiber and so on, then they will not be considered as plastic. Or if the polymer of which the material consists is used merely as an additive and does not function as a major structural component of the product, then we do not consider this type of products as plastic products. Legal advisor. Thank you, Chairman. For this newly added Section 3A, the administration said there are exceptions under this section. For Section 3A, subsection 3B, bracket 2, it says that the polymer of which the material consists does not function as a major structural component of the product. And we wrote to the administration concerning this, and in paper number CB bracket 1278/2023 bracket 01, the administration's reply saying that it has consulted the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, and structural is defined as connected with the way in which something is built or organized. The administration said that in the context of consumer products, a main structural component of the product generally implies a primary building component of a product that is self-supporting and can bear the forces or weights of or on the product. If the administration has a clear definition of what a structural component is, well, should you include such definition in the bill? If not, why? Please explain to members. Mr. Luke? Well, I'll invite our colleagues from DOJ to give an explanation. Ms. Selina Lau? Thank you, Chairman. Members may be familiar with this already. For ordinary meaning, we usually adopt the meaning from the dictionary. If we adopt a meaning from the dictionary, we won't provide further explanation in the bill. Say for polymer, we won't give further explanation of what polymer is in the bill because it's from the dictionary. Yes, legal advisor. Members can think about whether a clearer definition should be provided here for easier understanding of the public. In relation to what structural component mean or what structural means, members can think about whether a clearer definition has to be provided. If members are of the view that the administration should make it clearer in the bill, then you may ask the administration to follow up on this. Vice Chairman Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, Mr. Andrew Lam, and Mr. Peter Xu press the button to speak. Mr. Chen, I agree with what the legal advisor said. The administration provided a written response on this, and I think there is a need to follow up on this question. I think we have to make sure that the wording used in the bill is not too vague for people to understand, especially it involves enforcement and collection of or gathering of evidence. And after reading this part of the bill, I have doubts as well, so I want the administration to follow up on this. In relation to sections 3A, 3B, and 3C concerning regulated plastic products, from what the administration said, I have thought about this. We're scrutinizing the Product Eco-Responsibility Amendment Bill, Well, previously, we have approved the municipal solid waste charging scheme as well as the plastic shopping bag charging schemes. Well, here, in terms of regulated plastic product, throughout the bill, what exemptions have been set out? In terms of the regulations that have been passed, are the products under those schemes not included in this bill because the relevant schemes or legislations have already been approved or passed? For CAP 603, plastic shopping bags are also included in the schedule, and we have amended the schedule. In terms of the definition of plastic, after we amend CAP 603, the new definition will apply to the plastic products mentioned in this bill as well as plastic bags. This is CAP 603. On plastic garbage bag schemes, it's related to CAP 354, the Waste Disposal Ordinance, and the materials used in manufacturing those plastic bags are not specified. We're making it more detailed in this bill because plastic bag is just an individual plastic item. For other plastic products, there may be other substances as well. So we want to define what plastic is clearly in this bill and to cover a variety of plastic products. And this definition should cover plastic bags or the type of plastic materials used in manufacturing plastic bags.
Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. My question is the same as Mr. Chen Sil-hung's. We first go to Part 5 of the ordinance, purposes of the ordinance. We've added the two more elements, use and display. Whilst I'm not against this, once you add use and display of the products, you need to consider the fact that this is, after all, a very much a science matter. The general public who use plastic products, they don't check the ingredients, and we could be inadvertently caught by the law as a result. I accept the definition in the law, but when it comes to enforcement, I do have a concern. Unless at the retail level, you also require clear labels to be provided, there may be problems. Say you put it like the main structural component. Well, unless you take this product to a lab, you won't be able to ascertain. So my question is on enforcement. Mr. Lok, about the proposed products to be regulated, I think it can be seen very easily whether it's made of plastic, like Mr. Andrew Lam said. This is a scientific concept. This may go beyond the general understanding of the public. However, we're not targeting the end consumers. This ordinance targets suppliers. We ban the sale and distribution and display of the products. So this is about the supplier's responsibility. Of course, if these products are available in the market, you can't stop consumers from buying them. So we're not targeting the end of point sale, but rather the display and availability of the products in the market. In fact, if you check with naked eye, you can see whether this product contains plastic. But we do provide a more detailed definition here. A follow-up question, Chairman. I understand your point. I'm also talking about supply of the products. For purposes of this ordinance, you add this subsection F, which also includes use or display of certain products. The consumer uses the products. Although you say this bill targets the suppliers, you need to make it clear what the word use means. I think from the public's point of view, after the bill is passed, their major concern is a list of plastic products to be included. They don't need to know about the scientific definition, what is meant by plastic and made of plastic, so on and so forth. And it is exactly on this basis that the Assistant Legal Advisor has put questions relating to certain expressions, such as the main structural component of the product. He's asking for a clear explanation. I don't think we should dwell on whether the public wants a similarly complicated scientific explanation. I think the public's major concern is what products are included in the ban. Second point, the administration at the CSA stage can perhaps consider the comments just made and include this definition. For example, what is meant by functioning as the main structural component of the product. I understand that, of course, you can find an explanation in a dictionary, but after all, this is not something that we generally use. Mr. Peter Show. I heard from the administration that for packaging or plastic products made of paper, there may be a laminated layer of plastic. If it's just a paper box, or a paper container for liquid, then wouldn't it become soaked and torn very soon? This is exactly why we're discussing this. We use paper cups which hold water. There is no leakage because they make use of a plastic coating or layer, but it's water soluble. I can defer to my colleague to take the question, Ms. Yong. The definition goes as non-main structural component of the product. We have the non-soluble, water-soluble laminated layer. This is different from what we normally see in paper cups at this stage. You can clearly separate the laminated plastic layer from the paper cup at the moment. And there is also this technology that can prevent leakage and have temperature control. But this technology is not widely available at the moment, and that is why we have included paper cups in the next phase of implementation. I think one important point to note is that there may be products meeting this definition, but the products may not fall automatically under the list of products to be controlled. Can I take it that way, that the products not meeting this definition may not immediately be put under control? Is that right? In terms of the scope of products, it is confined to the list of products in the schedule. As my colleague just explained, we do have this paper cup with the latest technology, only that it is not readily available in the market now. That is why, as explained in our electrical brief, paper cups will belong to the next phase of implementation. We'll start with the plastic knives, cutleries. When alternatives are clearly available. For paper cups, meal boxes, so on and so forth, they will be left in the next phase. Yes, I understand that, but we're talking about the definition, and your next phase of implementation follows the same definitions. I know you talk about the alternatives, the so-called non-water soluble layers. What about the pricing? Let me give you this example. One such paper cup is now costing 50 cents instead of $1. But what about the paper cups prevailing in the market? You know, the paper cups with plastic coating, what's the unit price? It comes with a wide range, between 30 to 50 cents per cup. Yes. I remind members that there is a scientific strict definition here. Products not meeting this definition, however, are not immediately subject to control at this stage. We should focus on the list of items in the schedule that will be included in the ban. So we should not dwell on the details, but rather whether we agree with the list. Mr. Chan Xiu-Hong, Chairman, thank you. I have a question on 3A. I'm not familiar with plastic or polymer or natural polymer that has not been chemically modified. For subsections 1 and 2, it's clear that if the material consists of polymer, whether or not it is an additive or any other substance, then it is regarded as plastic, and the product is made of plastic if it is wholly or partly made of a material mentioned in subsection 1. And then subsection 3, there is an exclusion. That is, if the material consists of a natural polymer that has not been chemically modified. Natural polymer that has not been chemically modified, is that a natural additive? Is it an additive included in the manufacturing process to make the product look nicer? So this expression, natural polymer that has not been chemically modified, is it up to 99%? Or are you just referring to product with natural polymer that has not been chemically modified at all? Ms. Yong? Products made entirely of paper, pulp, or fiber are regarded as natural polymer that has not been chemically modified, 100%. Right, but what if it only constitutes a small percentage? Is it still regarded as not made of plastic? Then it depends on the use of non-natural polymer, whether it is used as an additive or whether it functions as a major structural component. And perhaps I'll explain with this example. Say a paper cup contains adhesives. Adhesives are plastic, made of plastic, is a kind of additive, and then On the paper cup, a logo may be printed with ink, and the kind of oil-based ink is a kind of non-natural polymer. So again, this is considered as an additive. Well, of course, we're talking about non-natural polymer used as an additive or as a binder, adhesive, whatever. It forms. Well, it doesn't form as a major structural component. But here, for A, the polymer of which the material consists is a natural polymer that has not been chemically modified. Are you suggesting that for all kinds of polymer use, they should be natural polymer that has not been chemically modified? Or as long as a certain kind of polymer is used that does not fall in the definition, it will be regarded as plastic? It should be entirely made of natural polymer. But in the previous subsection, it says wholly or partly made of materials, so on and so forth. Let's say if this product is made entirely of plastic, but in the process, you add a kind of natural polymer, just 1% out of 100. Say, if it contains paper, then it's still regarded as plastic. I think there is ambiguity in the three subsections, especially for subsection 3A. I think it's quite ambiguous. We asked a previous question on functioning as a major structural component. I understand the explanation. Say if the product is 99% made of plastic and then 1% made of natural polymer that has not been chemically modified, then if this product is wholly made of plastic, then it will function as a major structural component. But for the 3A and B, these two subsections are mutually exclusive. So following 3A, if I use 1% of polymer that is a natural polymer which has not been chemically modified, then B, 3B Roman numerals will cease to apply. So I think you need to explain the definition.
I understand what Ms. Yong said, but I think there is some confusion based on the text here. Mr. Chang? Chairman, for section 3A, subsection 1, it says as long as there is a polymer, then the material is considered to be plastic. For subsection 2, it says that a product is made of plastic if it is wholly or partly made of a material of polymer. So that means if it is 100% natural polymer, then it's not made of plastic. Say there is non-natural polymer and that only additives are used in manufacturing the product or used in the non-structural part, then the product is not considered as plastic. How about section 3, section 3A, subsection 3, bracket A? I think it's a bit confusing because it says the polymer of which the material consists is a natural polymer that has not been chemically modified. I think what Ms. Yong said is not consistent with the provision here. So do you have to adjust your wording to make it clearer? According to Ms. Yong, under section 3A, if adhesives are added to the product, then it's not considered as plastic. However, during the manufacturing process, even if 1% of non-natural polymer is used, and it falls under the definition of subsection 3B. I'm asking about the part about wholly or partly made of material of polymer. under the definition of what is plastic, say a product consists of a polymer and is made of metal, and there is plastic in it, then it's considered as a plastic product. However, if the material used is natural polymer adhered to other substances, then this product is not a plastic product. So we focus on the amount of polymer in the product. If the polymer used is natural polymer, then the product is not a plastic product. If the polymer has been chemically modified, even if the product is partly or wholly made of such polymer, then we consider it's a plastic product. Well, I share the same views with Vice Chairman in relation to your wording about wholly or partly made of the material. So that means as long as there is a small part of product made of the such polymer, then it should be considered as a plastic product. Is that right? That should be your legislative intent. Otherwise, people can add a little bit of paper in the product, and with most part made of plastic, to make use of the loophole. Chairman, there are a few types of polymer. It can be plastic or non-plastic, such as paper. Say a product is made of plastic and metal, then this is a plastic product because there is plastic in it. Say if the polymer used is paper and metal, then this is not a regulated product because it's not a plastic product. Say if we find plastic polymer in the product, then we have to look at what type of polymer it involves. Say in the printing or ink printing, there is polymer, but then it does not form the main structure of the product, then we do not regulate this type of products if it just involves the printing. There may be confusion because polymer can be plastic or non-plastic. When we define plastic, we have to bring up the word polymer. So we have to exclude polymer that is not plastic so that it doesn't cover any products made of polymer. Well, we are clear about section 3B, but for section 3A, the way you write it here may cause misunderstanding. It says here that the material is a natural polymer if it is not chemically modified. I'm saying that there are conflicting parts here. Vice Chairman and I spot problems in your wording, so you should consider amending it. Well, let us look into it after the meeting. If we dwell on this, then we won't be able to move on with the clause-by-clause examination. I'm telling you that you can make your wording clearer, so please fix it after the meeting. We will study it. There's no point for you to argue with us. I'm just saying that you should not cause any confusion in the way you draft your bill. I understand that you want to finish the clause-by-clause examination as soon as possible, but there are reasons for us to raise such questions. We've already said that we understood what Ms. Young said. I'm just saying that the way you write it here causes confusion. Mr. Andrew Lam, Chairman, I don't want to argue with the administration in terms of the definition. I understand that there may be scientific grounds on which you draft this bill, but you have to think about whether you can provide the relevant labels to suppliers so that you don't trigger any fear among suppliers. I pointed out what I said so that we don't think that all kinds of plastic products fall under this definition. What the administration said is they only regulate the products that are covered in the positive list. Sorry, Chairman, I want to make my point clearer. The administration is regulating suppliers. For online shopping, it's hard for you to find the suppliers. So people can make use of the loophole. How are we going to explain to the public then? I understand that you are targeting suppliers in this bill, but then the wording here is incomplete. Chairman, it's included in the purpose of the bill. It says clearly what the bill can do or the ordinance can do. In terms of whether we're able to prosecute a supplier, we have to go back to the ordinance. We are not targeting people who buy the products concerned. We're not trying to use the ordinance to initiate prosecution against shoppers or end users. We want to make the definition broader so that it can cover the plastic products we want to regulate. Next, Reverend Peter Kun. I think the administration hasn't provided an explanation on a laminated layer. In relation to subsection 3 bracket B2, Ms. Yong. Laminated layer is commonly seen in paper cups. There is usually a layer of plastic coating or film so that the paper cup can be waterproof or oil-proof, and such layer is known as laminated layer. So it's not a major structural component. It is a major structural component. Well, you have to make it clear in your definition. You said such as a laminated layer here. Does that mean it is an example of a structural component? The way you write it here makes people think that a laminated layer is an example of a major structural component. Do you get what I mean? Yes. Vice Chairman. Chairman, I want to follow up on the question made by Mr. Andrew Lam. Mr. Andrew Lam was referring to page 44 of the marked up copy. The administration is adding subsection F here, the prohibition or restriction on the manufacture, sale, supply, distribution, use, or display of certain products. For the purposes of this ordinance, the original purpose is to regulate suppliers, manufacturers, retailers, or wholesalers, etc. But the administration doesn't intend to regulate users. But a subsection F is added here. And I think Mr. Andrew Lam is worried that if you add such subsection here, end users may inadvertently breach the law. Is subsection F a continuation of subsections A to E? Mr. Chang. Under purposes of this ordinance, for subsection 2, in order for CAP 603 to achieve the purposes of this ordinance, there are measures, and we list out the measures here. Say for subsection 2B, a deposit refund scheme is included here. We have written it in the bill, but so far we haven't had such deposit refund scheme. So when we add subsection F in relation to the manufacture, sale, distribution of certain products, etc., we included the word use here so that it ensures a wider coverage. But in terms of this bill, we're not focusing on the use of plastic products. Legal advisor. To ensure smooth scrutiny of the bill, have to remind members that when it comes to the provisions under the bill, we have to pay attention to how the provisions are drafted. Members may find that the wording of business operation comes up repeatedly. That means it is related to people who run the relevant business. So it does not concern ordinary members of the general public. If members have questions when we come to the specific provision, we can scrutinize which groups of people will be regulated under the relevant provision. Say for catering industry, it says specifically that during the process of operating a catering business. And that's the point of concern there. So I hope to provide a bit more of background information for members to ensure a smooth clause-by-clause scrutiny.
Thank you, legal advisor. Now, I understand from this explanation that for the purposes of this ordinance, you want to include a wider scope. You set out this wide scope without spelling out the nitty-gritty. You need to turn to the specific provisions regulating the specific businesses. So this use, the word use covers a wide scope, but as to what exactly the word use means, you need to refer to the scenarios. On the definition and the meaning of plastic, there is a concern that this definition may be too wide, but then there may be different scenarios and different uses. Mr. Chang? As for the points raised, further clarification needed. Perhaps you should consider moving CSAs. 3B. Meaning of made of oxo-degradable plastic. The product is made of oxo-degradable plastic. If it's made of plastic and there is added to the plastic an additive that through oxidation will lead to fragmentation of the plastic into microfragments or to chemical decomposition of the plastic. All right, no questions. 3, capital C, meaning of disposable, that is of members' concern, as explained in the previous meetings. A product is designed to be used for the purpose, and then according to this design, before being disposed of, this product will not be used more than once or on more than one occasion. The product will then be regarded as disposable. We've had a lot of discussions on this term before. Right, no comment? All right, Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chairman. As the Chairman correctly puts it, we have reservations about the meaning of the word disposable, from what we learned while meeting with different organizations, we're concerned not about whether it should be banned or replaced. We're concerned, however, when the law comes into operation, the government should be able to quote the exact provision in relation to the collection of evidence and prosecution. We understand that there is no international standard on the term disposable. In New Zealand, for example, multiple use or more than a single use is the phrase. According to the administration's explanation, if we express it as a single-use item, then it's more easily understood. But when it comes to law enforcement, we need more. For example, if a member of the public buys takeaway food and then in the restaurant, and then for the restaurant, the product is provided with the label not for single use by the customer. Does it mean that the restaurant will be able to circumvent this provision? And in the restaurant, at the same time, if the cutleries are available for sale with the label not for single use, or say, in terms of law enforcement, what if I have put a clear label that this is not for one-off use? Then if the consumer decides to dispose of the cutleries, then is the behavior of the consumer, not the restaurants concerned. Now we need to tackle those who try to plug the loophole. If this provision comes into effect, then for major restaurant chains, of course, they will not resort to these unscrupulous means. What about smaller operators? If you put a label stipulating that in terms of design, this product is for multiple use, for use on multiple occasions or multiple times, then for major enterprises, they may only use cutleries that are sturdy. But what about smaller operators? Will they make use of this claim to abuse the provision? Mr. Chang, as explained in previous meetings, in terms of the meaning of disposable, we focus on the design to use. And one cannot just make a claim in writing on the design to use. If the matter is taken to the court, we need to consider the structure of the product, whether from the point of view of an ordinary person, he will consider this product to be of single use. And also the product itself, if it's a really thin layer of, or a thinly structured fork, whether it can withstand multiple times of use as claimed. So we need to consider the design and the product itself. We also need to consider the actual circumstances. Even if you claim that this fork can be used multiple times, it doesn't mean it can actually withstand multiple times of use. So we need to consider the general understanding of the product, and we've also made reference to the expression used in other jurisdictions. I think we have discussed this point before. We are reminding the administration matters to note when it comes to enforcement. Now we should focus on the meaning of disposable in 3 capital C, whether we find this explanation palatable. We've made reference to major jurisdictions. It's very difficult to depart from this expression. It's quite impossible to include, say, what the deputy chair mentioned. At a macro level, if non-disposable plastic tableware is widely available at an affordable cost, then I don't think some restaurants will go all the way just to circumvent the control as you suggested, as long as you can get the alternatives at a reasonable cost. I don't think anyone will deliberately breach the law. I think we should all be pragmatic about this. Our goal is to phase out and ban these plastic products. But at the end of the day, we don't want restaurants to abuse this loophole for expedience. If the restaurant offers products that can last for a long time, that can allow for multiple times of use over the years, then we don't want the public to dispose of the plastic products despite them being sturdy, because this will be more detrimental to the environment if they end up in the landfill. So it's not about the definition of single use or multiple use. In Australia and New Zealand, even if there is a claim that it can be used for multiple times, they're still subject to control. I don't know why the administration is not making reference to these expressions. This is, after all, a novel piece of legislation. We have yet to hear about case authorities, but we should walk the extra mile and just ban the distribution of plastic tableware in restaurants altogether. Won't it be a bolder and clearer step? Mr. Peter Shield may have strong views on my suggestion. I want to bring members back to the clause-by-clause scrutiny. We have talked about the different issues of concern, but now it's time for us to look at 3 capital C, meaning of disposable, and whether it is necessary to make an amendment. Otherwise, we may have to call for 10 more meetings in order to finish our work. Well, of course, it's not just about our efficiency. Of course, the members' concern is valid. If you find it necessary to make an amendment, how? If not, we can just raise a concern that there might be implications in the future when it comes to enforcement. Well, so you can put it this way. If you have a suggestion, in order to avoid anybody abusing this loophole, you should add these expressions, so and so. Right, you can consider this possible CSA. You can make reference to the expressions used in Australia and New Zealand. Even for products designed for more than one time of use, it should be controlled as well. So that's your comment. Any other comments on 3 capital C? Mr. Yeo Pak Lang, also on 3 capital C. Thank you, Chairman. I'm not a legal professional. Say, for the meaning of disposable and single-use item, I can't help but think about this scenario in my hotel operation. Say, this hotel offers a toothbrush of a particular brand. It's a household brand. Now, if I stay for a night, it's all right. If I stay for 2 nights, then it is my habit that I will reuse the same toothbrush. I will not open another one. And if I really like that toothbrush or the comb, I'll just take it home afterwards. Then does it fall within this definition? Is it against the law? Mr. Chan. Thank you, Chairman. Apart from more than once, we also include in the meaning on more than one occasion. Say if you live in the same hotel room for a number of nights, then you won't be using the toothbrush on more than one occasion. For hotels, for products made of plastic, we won't allow free distribution. It should come with a charge. As long as this toothbrush is made of plastic, you should charge the guests. Please, members, perhaps we should discuss the nitty-gritty later. On page 89 of the marked up version, you will find the provisions relating to plastic toothbrush, so on and so forth. Now, we should first discuss the meaning of disposable in 3C. Do we agree with the definition?
Next, Reverend Peter Kun, Chairman. I think the problem is we do not understand the provision. We as members, when we scrutinize the bill, we do not understand the expressions used here, which require a lot of explanation from the administration. If they do not provide an explanation, we wouldn't be able to understand the wording. Well, that's the case usually for scrutiny of a bill. Well, let me ask members again if amendments are needed for Section 3C. Any things unclear to members in relation to Sections 3A to 3C? If not, we can only proceed with the clause-by-clause scrutiny. Yes, Vice Chairman. I hope the administration can incorporate our views. We have offered our comments, and the legal team of the administration should know best how to amend the wording in the provisions to ensure better understanding of the bill. I want to know if the administration can, through amending the wording, address our concerns. I mentioned about the expressions used in New Zealand and Australia, and they include products designed to be used more than once or just once. There are no conflicts between the two versions or between the version used here and the expressions used in other countries. I want to know the concerns of the administration. Legal advisor. I don't see any conflicts between the version suggested by members and the version here. But in practice, when we put it into writing, how do we amend the wording? I'm not sure how the administration is going to do so. I will have to see the amended version in order to make a judgment. If we want to make the definition broader, say if you want to include the wording of designed to be used once or more than once under the meaning of disposable, I don't see any conflicts between the amended version and the suggested version here. Sorry. I have a question. For this mouse, you can say that this mouse is designed to be used more than once. If you define disposable as any products designed to be used just once, then it may not be practicable. I'm not trying to speak for the government. I'm just saying that we have to be practicable. Mr. Luke? Chairman, I think it involves the enforcement of the law if we include the wording of designed to be used a number of times, and we have to provide a definition of a number of times. That would cause confusion. So I think it is clearer to say designed more than once. If the matter is taken to the court and there are disputes on whether the product can be used more than once, then we can study that example in details and see how the court will decide on the matter. But for now, we think that it is clear enough to just say designed more than once. So for plastic products that can be used repeatedly, do we regard them as disposable plastic products? Say I have plastic water cups at my home and I can use it for a number of times. Should it be considered as a disposable plastic product? I think it's hard to draw an absolute line here. If the government is not proposing in CSA, well, members can suggest amendments still. But for products that can be repeatedly used and we still regard them as disposable products, then I think it will raise controversies. Mr. Andrew Lam. I think it's hard to put the scientific concept into writing. Even if we define something as or some products that can be used for more than once, how do we provide a clear definition? Say a toothbrush can be used more than once. I guess my expectation is that I hope the administration can set out all the scenarios clearly as it amends its wording or expression. Mr. Luke. For Section 3C, we're targeting products before they are disposed of. It means that you only use the product once before disposing of the product. For a meal container, for a plastic spoon that comes with the meal container, can only use it once or more than once? I think it's hard to cover all types of scenarios here. Well, members, you're welcome to make any suggestions and the administration will consider whether to adopt the suggestions. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. We don't want to spend too much time on arguing this. We just hope to avoid scenarios in which disputes may arise. I want to be pragmatic here. After drawing reference from definitions around the world, including South Australia and New Zealand, well, according to the legislations, they define disposable products as those which can be disposed of after being used more than once or a number of times. However, in this bill, the administration defines disposable as a product that is not designed to be used for the purpose for which it was designed more than once or on more than one occasion. I understand you cannot analyze it in a scientific way in terms of deciding whether it can be used more than once. But if we look at the expressions used in New Zealand, it says a product that is used for more than once or a number of times before being disposed of can be regarded as a product, as a disposable product. Why doesn't the administration adopt similar expression as that used in New Zealand? I'll invite our colleagues from DOJ to give an explanation. Ms. Lau. Chairman, in South Australia and in New Zealand, the word design is used in their expressions. Yes, Chairman. This is not in conflict with the legislative intent of the administration. It's just that in their expressions, they say that if a product is designed to be used more than once or a number of times, it is a disposable product. But in this bill, it says it's designed more than once or on more than one occasion. So members are concerned whether we should add designed to be used a number of times. Is that right? Yes. Well, we adopt the expression used in New South Wales. Say a product can be used for 100 or 150 times, and still it is considered as a limited number of times. In order to avoid confusion, we think we should keep it simple and say a product that is designed to be used more than once, then it's a disposable product. Chairman, we are raising such concern, and we hope the administration can consider it again. And if you have taken into consideration our concerns, and if you still think that there is no need to make amendments, then we will think about whether it's necessary to move a CSA. We have had this discussion before. What Ms. Lau said just now, I've heard before. That is why the administration is not adopting a certain expression from other countries. Well, Vice Chairman has voiced his opinions, and if the administration thinks that there is no need to amend the relevant provision, then members may raise in CSA. Well, administration, please also provide a written explanation as to why you think a CSA is not necessary. Mr. Perry, you? This section says a product is disposable if it is not designed to be used for more than once. Say in hotels, I use the toothbrush example again. If we're using a high-end brand and we know that the product is not designed to be used for more than once, and if it is provided to the customers, will the hotel breach the law? As to how specifically this provision should be amended, I do not have any suggestions. Well, you're targeting the suppliers mainly, but for operators or users, I understand that the customers who use this product will not breach the law. But for operators or hotel operators, if the provision is not made clear enough, the operators may inadvertently violate the legislation. Well, Mr. Yu raised a very practical example. For some hotels, the toothbrushes they provide are obviously disposable. The material used is not very good, and you use it just once or twice, and the toothbrushes are going bad. But for those used at homes, they are different. They are of higher quality. If hotels provide these higher quality toothbrushes, will these toothbrushes be regarded as disposable toothbrushes? I think this is a very practical matter that we have to consider. Mr. Luke? Or Mr. Chang? Under the bill for toothbrushes and combs provided for hotels, as long as they are made of plastic, they cannot be provided to their customers for free. We don't have to think about whether these products are disposable or not. As long as they are plastic, then they cannot be offered to customers for free. We're not banning the use of these products. We're just banning the free distribution of these products. So as long as they are made of plastic, then they have to charge their customers. Please carry on with the clause-by-clause scrutiny.
Page 47. Prescribed products to which Part 2 applies, we will add the phrase regulated articles and regulated plastic products. Please continue. Page 48. We'll add section 100 under general provisions as to regulations made under this ordinance. Just a technical amendment. Next, page 50. We'll add a new part 6, on regulated plastic products. This part will start with the interpretation clause, including wholly contained. When we discuss prepackaged products, we'll discuss how the food or drink is wholly wrapped or enclosed or covered in any packaging. This is the same as the definition in the plastic shopping bag legislation. The other definition is premises. It includes any structure as well as a cart or other conveyance. Next, preparation. This relates to takeaway food. In relation to any food or drink means any form of cooking or any other treatment that changes the form or flavor of the food or drink, but does not include the trimming of fresh produce. I'll pause here. Section 58. Any questions? Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, Deputy Chair. About premises. Premises includes any structure, a cart or other conveyance. So food truck is also included. And then I see another definition, catering premises. And then the premises itself. Can you explain what is meant by premises? Is it the kitchen of the fast food restaurant, food trucks, food vendors in the street? Are all these included? What about catering services? I know there's another definition. And then there's something else, food court. How do you define it? What about food court producing takeaways for customers? And then the customer consumes the product in the premises not provided by the business operator but by the shopping mall. Right? Do they include all the scenarios mentioned by Deputy Chair? Yes, for catering premises, please refer to section 63, which will provide a definition of the different scenarios. We will keep to this section first. Any other comment on 58? If not, 59. Meaning of supply. Supply means provide or distribute that product, so it includes sale as well, but it does not include the export of the product in the course of business. Supply includes the provision or distribution of the product either free of charge or comes with a charge. And then if the product is supplied as a subject of transaction, such as the purchase of a pack of plastic forks, or supplied in addition to the subject of a transaction, such as giving away plastic straws when you purchase a drink, or whether or not it is supplied together with another product as a single item of goods. If you put this product in, among others, in a goodie bag, is still regarded as a supply. And then we have the exemption clause in subsection 3. If you're transporting for another person a product that does not belong to the provider, such as the courier service, which does not own that product, or make arrangements to facilitate the collection by another person of a product that does not belong to the provider. That means, say, if I operate a storage space, I don't own that product. Or next subsection, I make arrangements to facilitate the payment by another person for a product that does not belong to the provider. If I only make arrangements for payments to be made for meal boxes to be provided, then I operate the school, but I don't own or provide the meal boxes. Mr. Andrew Lam. Just a question on the two scenarios. Whether or not you impose a charge, if you provide the product, you are the supplier. Say if I am an organization running a recycling business, I collect recyclables or reusable items, and then I redistribute these items for use. Then in the future, such behavior will be banned. In the next scenario, if you include supply free of charge, then what happens if I get takeaway food and then I clean the products for distribution to others again? Then is this caught by subsection 3 here? Mr. Chan. Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, we talk about the specific scenario. Say I run a recycling operation. I'm an NGO, so I collect recyclables. I am the supplier. It's not a profit-making operation. When this law comes into effect, the supply of the reusable items will be against the law, right? Yes, it's regarded as supply. If it's disposable plastic products, then the NGO should refrain from redistributing these products to others. In the next scenario, I'm talking about helping out relatives. I have disposable cutleries at home, and then if I'm supposed to take a meal box to my relative, I also include a set of disposable cutleries in a bag. Then is it included? If you don't do it in the course of business, you're not caught. The law regulates the course of business, the activities in the course of business. If you just give away something to your friend, then this is not caught by the law. Right, in the course of business, I ask at the outset whether supply includes activities free of charge or not. That means you have some activities are free of charge in the course of business. If you do it as a matter of a personal act, then it's not a business. All right, understood. If it's done in the course of business, it's caught even if it's free of charge. If it's personal act, then it's not caught. Any other questions on the word supply? No, not Mr. Andrew Lam. I have a question on 60 and then 1, 2, and 3, or rather 59. For food delivery workers or couriers, they deliver the purchase made by the customer to the customer, so the delivery worker is excluded. What about storage? Say if I get takeaway food with single-use plastic items and I put it in a storage space, how should it be dealt with? And then subsection 3 here, a person, and then in bracket provider, who only provides any one or more of the following services, and then A, transporting for another person, does it include just a person or an entity? Is it the general rule in the law that another person includes the things I mentioned, Mr. Chang? About food delivery, Deputy Chair, you're right. This falls under bracket 3, bracket A. You're transporting food for another person. And then storage space 3B, you make arrangements to facilitate the collection by another person of something that does not belong to you. For another person, I think it includes an entity as well. I'll defer to the Department of Justice. DOJ, according to Cap 1 IGCO, a person includes a natural person and a business entity, a business undertaking. Thank you. Next, Mr. Peter Shou. I'm imagining this scenario. Say if I ask a courier to deliver a certain product to someone else, at this moment, as the matter stands, a plastic bag will be used to contain the product. In the future, will the courier be able to use this plastic bag? The plastic bag belongs to the next phase relating to packaging. It's not in this exercise. So the plastic bag itself is not regarded as supplied to the customer. We are just referring to the list of items in the subsidiary legislation. For the courier service, they are not responsible for the items contained in the plastic bag. Say that it may be a pack of plastic cutleries. The courier is only responsible for transporting the product. Say if I run this business, I bring stuff to others. Now at the moment, I may use a plastic bag to contain the different items. The plastic bag is not part of this exercise. No. I'm thinking about this extreme scenario. Supposing this operator prepares takeaway food as per the customer's order, and then the delivery or the courier service is supposed to transport the products to the customer, and then on its own volition, the transport operator then provides the single-use items. Well, if it's 3A, it regulates it provides exclusion to the transport operator. So it's the conduct of the food delivery service, not the restaurant. What happens if there is a tacit understanding? At the end point, when delivery is made, the courier then asks whether the consumer needs a single-use cutlery. Then 3A is not regarded as supply. So how do you deal with this scenario? In 3A, if the service conveys the plastic cutleries that do not belong to the provider, then he will be excluded. Otherwise, he will not.
Any other questions in relation to Section 59? Thank you, Deputy Chair. If there are no questions concerning Section 59, let's move on to Section 60. Section 60 is about supplying plastic products at time of providing dine-in service. For subsection A, it says that any food or drink is supplied by the caterer to another person for consumption on the premises. For subsection B, there are two scenarios set out. The first scenario, the product is supplied by the caterer together with the food or drink and is used by the caterer for the purpose of serving the food or drink for consumption on the premises. Second scenario, the plastic cutleries or tableware may be provided on the table. That is when the product is supplied by the caterer for the purpose of facilitating the consumption of the food or drink by a person on those premises. Deputy Chair. Say a catering premises, as suggested by Mr. Chang, there is a box placed in the catering premises with plastic cutleries inside. And if there is a notice put up by the catering premises asking customers to return the plastic cutleries after they use them, well, under such scenario, do you consider such plastic cutleries as one-off or single-use plastic products? Well, we have to see whether the cutleries are made of plastic. If the caterers try to exploit the legal loophole and provide some flimsy cutleries made of plastic to customers and claim that they are reusable, then we do not accept such cases. To avoid people abusing the law or loopholes, when you enforce the law, do you see whether the caterers try to clean the plastic cutleries and reuse them? Do you take this into consideration when you enforce the law? I think this is a reasonable scenario raised by Deputy Chair. Some caterers may clean the plastic cutleries and reuse them. Please move on. For Section 61, it's about supplying plastic products at time of providing catering service. Subsections A and B state that caterers are not allowed to provide plastic tableware to customers during the provision of catering services. For Section 61, subsection C, it sets out two scenarios. One scenario is that the product is supplied by the caterer to the consumers during the catering services. The second scenario, the product may not be supplied during the catering services, but supplied to the customers before they provide the catering services. I think the definitions not quite too different from that compared to dine-in services. Section 62, subsection A and B, or subsection 1 bracket A and B, sets out the scenario during which food or drink is supplied by the caterer in the course of the catering business. For subsection 1 bracket C, it sets out the scenario during which plastic products are supplied for the purpose of facilitating a person to take away the food or drink from the premises, or facilitating the consumption of the food or drink by a person outside those premises. This is supplying products at time of providing takeaway service. For Section 62, subsection 1 bracket D, it states that the transaction does not include the presence of the caterer or a person employed or engaged by the caterer. This sets out the scenario during which a takeaway service is provided but not a catering service. For subsection 2, it sets out scenarios which are not considered as supplying products at time of providing takeaway service. That is, if the food or drink is supplied by the caterer to another person for the customer to supply it to a third person, then it's not considered as supplying the products at time of providing takeaway service. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. I have a question in relation to Section 61 and 62. In supermarkets or in large-scale exhibitions or food exhibitions, customers can often have a taste of the food products. For the plastic cups they get when they taste the products, these are considered as supplying products at time of providing catering service. Say if a business operator wants its customers to try a specific food or drink product and it gives out plastic forks or plastic cups, would this be not allowed after the bill comes into effect? Are these scenarios set out under sections 61 and 62? For section 62, it says subsection 1 does not apply if the food or drink is supplied to customer to supply to a third person. I don't quite understand this part. Mr. Chang, say in a food expo, and it is clearly a catering premises, then products that are prohibited from being provided in dining service, they will be prohibited in a food expo as well. But how about when the customers want to just take a sip of a drink product or have a taste of the food product? Say a food, say food is cooked during a food expo, and a small plastic fork is provided to customers for them to have a taste of the food product. Well, there are alternatives to these plastic products. That's the first point. Secondly, if you are using the plastic product to consume the food, then you're violating the law. Say even if I'm distributing food for free, we should refrain from using plastic cutlery. Is that right? So it covers all food expos. Is that right? I guess the question is, will food expos be exempted? Mr. Chang, well, we encourage food operators to use alternatives or substitute products even in food expos. Well, if the bill comes into effect, then these products will be regulated or prohibited. Operators will only be able to look for substitute products. Well, Hong Kong is a food paradise. I believe Mr. Perry Yu will have concerns if plastic cutleries are prohibited at food expos. I think we're not prohibiting people from trying the food products. We're just asking people not to use disposable plastic cutleries. So will this provision cover such scenario? So section 61 and 62, there may be parts that are confusing. That is, the scenarios mentioned will be covered by these two sections. Is that right? I'll defer to Ms. Yong. For large-scale events such as food expos or gourmet marketplaces, if there are seats provided or tables provided next to the food stalls, it's considered as a catering premises or a dine-in service. Say at Food Expo, visitors walk around the venue and there are no tables or seats provided, then it's considered the takeaway service. Well, but there is no money transaction. Well, regardless of whether there is money transaction, the plastic products concerned will be regulated. That means regardless of whether the service provided is a dine-in service or takeaway service, the disposable products will be regulated. Well, during Phase 1 regulation, some of the cutleries are not regulated. But if you provide these cutleries to customers during Food Expo, it's considered as supplying products at time of providing takeaway service. Well, I guess Mr. Chan's question is whether the scenarios mentioned will be covered under Section 61 and 62. For Section 62, subsection 2, the food cannot be packaged at the food premises. It's considered as pre-packaged if it is packaged before it is supplied to a customer. Mr. Andrew Lam, I have a tricky question. Well, sorry, before you ask your question, I want to know if members have any objections to me extending this meeting for 15 minutes. Okay, Mr. Andrew Lam. I have a question about Section 72 in relation to the display of plastic tableware. My understanding is that a business operator may not be selling this plastic tableware. It's just that under certain circumstances, there's displaying such plastic tableware. If you're talking about display of products, if they do not use these products, they won't be breaching the law. Is that right? That is, if they supply products for people to taste the food products, that's one thing. If they display the products only, that's another thing. The display of products may be part of their services. How would you deal with such gray area?
展示嗰度咧，我哋去到會再詳細講啦。其實都係話你如
Well, we will discuss display in a greater detail later. But all in all, if you supply this product to a prospective customer, and in a course, if you display to the customer, then you will be in breach of this provision relating to display. Now, in a food fair, say like Ms. Yong said, if there is no seating available, then we're talking about a takeaway scenario. And for example, no plastic cutleries should be allowed. And as such, you should not put on display a packet of plastic cutleries, or you'll be in breach of the provision. When we come to page 58, we will be looking at display. I understand that, but say in a food expo, you can have different marketing strategies. And then as a matter of strategy, I display certain plastic tableware. Then according to what is defined here, this scenario will already constitute a breach. Mr. Peter Shill. Sorry, I was on the phone. I want to comment on 69 about catering services. Say if I have a container, can I cover that container with aluminum foil or plastic or cling wrap? So cling wrap is not regarded as a plastic product. Only plastic tableware is included in this exercise. There is a specific list available. We're not just talking about any kind of plastic used in either dining or takeaway services. Cling wrap is not part of the list. Section 63, supplementary provisions relating to catering premises. This is to address what members just mentioned. Say in a food court, when you have a primary premises as well as another area to provide seating for customers to consume the product there, then if the seating area is adjacent to the primary premises, then it forms part of the premises. In other words, seating in a food court is also considered within the premises. Another scenario is this. Say you may prepare food in another location. I'm talking about takeaway service in a hotel. If the kitchen is still within the same building, then it's still regarded as a dine-in scenario. So that's about Section 63. No comment. Please continue. Mr. Chan Siu-hong, Deputy Chair. Right, earlier I asked a question about the definition of premises. And then here, I see another concept, primary premises. How about you also provide a definition of primary premises in the interpretation clause? Because here, there is a narrow definition. Part of the catering premises refers to, and then you have the following subsections: seating or tables in the area, say in the case of a food court, albeit not at the counter where food is sold. My understanding is this. Now, at the time when you purchase food at the counter, it is akin to takeaway service. But then, adjacent to the area, there is seating or tables available for customers. Then, my understanding is that the area will also be regarded as the premises. I think we need to, first of all, clarify this concept. You have the primary premises definition here, and the caterers will be subject to this bill. Then is this scenario covered? I think it's a matter of drafting. I'll defer to the DOJ, Ms. Lau. Section 63 refers to the definition of catering premises. We already have a definition for premises. It can be a kind of structure or cart or a conveyance. Once we've defined premises, we don't need to give another definition. Now, for catering premises, we're talking about two major areas. One, the area or the premises on which the caterer carries on a catering business. The second scenario refers to, say, a food court or a hotel situation, as mentioned. We have a tag definition here. This is because once a definition appears in another section in the ordinance, then when the term primary premises reappears in another provision, it carries the same meaning. And then Section 63 refers to primary premises, meaning the premises on which the caterer carries on a catering business. And then the next subsection is not the primary premises in the situation of a food court or a hotel, but then using this tag definition for the area adjacent to the primary premises, as set out here, is regarded as catering premises as well. That is why 2B1 and 2, you will find the phrase primary premises here. Otherwise, without this tag definition in subsection 63(1), you will need to redefine and include the whole expression in subsection 2b12. So this is frequently used, the tag interpretation or tag definition to facilitate drafting. Yes, I agree that this drafting style should be adopted to elucidate the concept clearly. My point is, if you go to the interpretation clause and catering premises, you will find a reference to section 63. Now, in this section 63, apart from catering premises, you also have another concept, primary premises. Catering premises, you find the definition in section 63, and then in section 63 you find primary premises. So perhaps instead in the interpretation clause you should put down primary catering premises. I'm not an expert, Chairman, pardon me, but on reading this provision, my understanding is that if it only applies to a particular section, it should not be included in the interpretation clause unless you're going to frequently refer to this definition in other provisions. Here, it only refers to section 63, so instead of putting down the definition in the interpretation clause, you should just provide a definition in section 63. But here we're referring to the food court scenario. Is that right? In section 63, I mean. Lau? This one defines what catering premises mean in sections 61 to 63. The member's observation is correct. In some instances, we put a general definition in the interpretation clause. But since this definition is quite complex, we put one in the interpretation clause. Now, members may know that usually a definition of a term is rather simple. Here, it's a long definition. That is why we put down the definition in section 63, and then in the interpretation clause, section 63, we just make reference to section 63 for the definition of catering premises. This is to help readers understand that a definition is provided, only that it's difficult to include a long definition in section 58. I think it's a matter of drafting, and I think having listened to the administration's explanation, the question is addressed. I share the same thought. I just want to understand the rationale of including the definition here. Say for catering business, on page 15, the English version, you see we find the word see section 64, but catering business. This phrase doesn't just appear in section 64, but in other sections as well. But whereas for catering premises, I think the only place we find this expression is in section 63. That is why I wonder if you should just put down catering premises, which means primary premises, and then refer to section 63. Because of this special situation, you should spare having the definition in section 58 and rather refer to the primary catering premises in section 63. I don't really have a strong view, Chairman, just a point of elucidation. Alright, I will invite the administration to go back and give it a thought as to whether we need a change here. 2 more members. We'll need to further extend this meeting beyond 10:45. We still have 2 more members waiting to speak. Mr. Perrier. Catering premises. You talked about room service. Sometimes the hotel does not directly provide food for the guests. Sometimes the hotel provides service in the form of helping the guests get takeaway food, and sometimes the catering service is outsourced to a third party. So room service is still regarded as takeaway service. Mr. Chang, thank you for the comments. Now, if the catering premises or the primary premises is situated in the same building, in the same hotel, for example, then this is regarded as a dining service. But let's say if you help the guests order takeaway from another restaurant, not within the same hotel, then it's not regarded as the same premises. So in the same building, regardless of whom the operator is, right? That's not the point. It's whether the place of consumption is the same as a place of food preparation, because sometimes the hotel may have another party running the food service in the hotel. Miss Angela. What about vending machines? I can place the vending machine in any common area. So if the vending machine uses disposable tableware, then do you target the supplier of the vending machine or the premises? I think this is about prepackaged food. I think mostly the vending machine sells prepackaged food. I'm not talking about the food products themselves. But if there is a problem with the packaging, then who should be responsible? The operator of the premises or the supplier of the vending machine?
You have to spend money to buy, say, plastic forks or knives from the vending machine, then the vending machine is supplying plastic cutleries. However, if you're buying, say, cup noodles from the vending machine and the cup noodles come with plastic fork, then the vending machine is not supplying plastic cutlery. Say there is a common area for my staff members and it is not a staff restaurant. Say it is a co-working space and I place a vending machine there. If the products sold by the vending machine contain plastic cutleries, well, are you going to initiate prosecution against the owner of the premises or the operator of the vending machine? I think it should be the suppliers of the food products sold by the vending machines because it is the supplier that include the plastic cutleries in the food products sold by the vending machines. This is a complex issue. A lot of the vending machines need to be refilled by the venue operators. I want you to think about the details when you enforce the law. Of course, I give my full support to this bill. I just want you to think about the scenario regarding vending machines. Well, sometimes when you buy a food product from the vending machine, you may automatically get plastic tableware from the vending machine. Realistically, you'll have to think about such scenario. We're seeing more advanced designs of vending machines. So it is clear that it will be the supply of the food products that will be responsible, not the venue operators. My view is that if you have affordable alternatives, no one will deliberately breach the law by exploiting the loophole like this. Well, I mentioned that I will extend the meeting by 45 minutes, so Mr. Perry, I want to follow up on the question about room service. Say a restaurant in the hotel provide food to the guests of the hotel. When problems arise, it will be the restaurants that will be responsible, not the hotel. Is that right? Yes. There will be another meeting next Friday. I will talk to the administration and the secretariat regarding the booking of the meeting room. The next meeting is scheduled for the 30th of June at 10:45 a.m. We'll see whether it is necessary to adjust the time or schedule another meeting. For the resumption of the second reading at the LegCo, it is scheduled for the 18th of October. And the report to be made to the House Committee, the date will be the 7th of July. And the period by which we have to raise CSA will be by the 9th of October. And if we want to resume second reading on the 25th of October, we also have to report to the House Committee by the 7th of July, and we will have to make CSA by the 14th of October. If we want to resume second reading on the 1st of November, then we'll have to report to the House Committee by the 13th of October, and we'll have to propose all CSAs by the 21st of October. But we'll have to first complete the clause-by-clause examination first, and we'll take care of whether there are CSAs to be raised by members or the administration later. There being no other questions, that's all for our meeting today. As to what time we'll hold the meeting next Friday or on the 30th of June, we will notify members later. Thank you.